What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video. Now today's video is going to be talking about how I managed to get my total from 687.5 kilograms to 820 kilograms in 15 months. Now first and foremost, the purpose of this video is not to say if you do what I am going to outline, you will gain that much onto your total. That's the first thing. What I want to say is that the purpose of this video is to go over certain things that I have done or that I feel have allowed me to gain a reasonably significant amount of weight in my total, and I feel that if you're able to kind of implement some of this stuff, you will also be able to gain a pretty good amount onto your total. Now, do I believe that 90 to 95% of people could maybe gain 132.5 kilos in their total in 15 months? Honestly, no. I don't. I honestly think that only very few people will, because I feel that very few people have A, the lifestyle, and also B, the response to this training stimulus or the genetics to be able to do so. So I don't want to fool people into thinking that you can gain such a ridiculous amount, you know. But I do want to make people aware that if you kind of implement some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, you definitely are going to be able to at least gain a pretty good amount onto your total. Now, the first thing that I have done personally is I have not been afraid to gain weight. I have not been afraid to gain muscle. Now, I have moved up a weight class, so I've went from 104.2 kilos I weighed in my competition last April, and I weighed 119.2 in my competition in June, which was the World Championships. Now, I moved up a full weight class and I gained weight. I feel so many people are so afraid to gain any body weight, you know, or they have these things like, oh, I currently weigh 83 kilograms. I'm also 6 foot tall, and I don't hold a lot of muscle mass, and I total 500, but I think it'd be really, really cool to be able to total 750 staying the same body weight. Now, do you really think that you're going to be able to, if you're not gaining any muscle and you're staying the same body weight, that means that the only way you're going to get stronger is by driving neural adaptations, so becoming more neurally efficient, so improving the motor patterns, improving the efficiency of the motor pattern, becoming neurally more efficient? Do you really think you can gain 250 kilograms onto your total on top of when you don't hold very much muscle mass to begin with? Because you're not holding much muscle mass, your leverages aren't very good. You know, it's not going to happen. But could you gain 250 kilos if you're willing to go up to, say, 100 kilos over time? Absolutely. So don't be afraid to gain weight, you know. Don't be afraid to gain muscle. Now, I'm not saying pile on tons and tons and tons and tons of fat. Am I holding a bit more body fat than what I was at 104.2? Yes. You know, I'm not going to lie, I am, yes. But is it substantial? No. It's not substantially more, you know. I've done it right, I've done it over a long period of time. So that's the first thing, and I think it's so important. A stronger muscle is a bigger muscle is always a stronger muscle. That is a fact. A bigger muscle is always a stronger muscle, and a bigger muscle always has the potential to be a stronger muscle. Okay? Number two, consistency, you know. Consistency and adherence. You know, honestly, since beginning the gym in 2011, for me, I have not missed a single session in my entire life. Never once missed a session, you know. And doesn't make me better than anyone, that's not something to brag about. But I have a goal, you know. I have a goal. I want to be an IPF world champion, you know. That's my goal. I want to be a world champion. So I need to be able to, I need to be as consistent as that. You know, I've already went to the World Championships, you know, and I'm currently in the top 5, you know. I took a bronze medal in the squat, stuff like that, so I'm getting there. But consistency, be consistent. Can you work out, how many days a week can you work? Can you work out 3? Can you work out 2? Can you work out 3? Can you work out 4? You know, can you maybe work out 5? Find out how many you can fit around your schedule, and be consistent. Be consistent with your training. Be consistent with your recovery. Be consistent with your sleep. Be consistent with your eating, your food intake. Be consistent with your programming. Be consistent in every single aspect. That is going to be a big driving factor for you getting better. Number 3 is belief. Believing that you're going to get stronger is going to help massively, you know. One big thing, and it's something that I actually struggle with a lot sometimes with some of the athletes I work with, is that they lack a lot of confidence. You know, they lack a lot of confidence, you know. And that they really, they almost don't believe that they can get stronger, you know. So for example, they will say they want a 200 kilogram squat, okay? And now this is no one in particular at all, this is just off the top of my head, but they want a 200 kilo squat. And we do a 190 kilograms for say, 4 doubles, you know. And each of them is an RPE 9. But they still just don't quite believe they can do a 200 kilo squat, and then they go and end up missing the 200 kilo squat. Now, based off their training, they definitely have the ability and the strength potential to squat 200 kilos, but they hold themselves back because they put this weight on a pedestal and they don't believe that they can get stronger. So self-belief, simply just believing you can get stronger and you believe you can add weight to the bar will go a long way. You know, that will go a long way with not fearing weights, not putting weights in pedestals, and simply, you know, just getting better. The next point I'd like to make is about being realistic, you know. Now, there's 2 parts to this. Number one, you know, don't necessarily be realistic, you know. If after totaling 687.5 kilos, if someone said to me in 15 months you'll be totaling 820 kilos at the World Championships, having been the current Scottish British champion, European silver medalist, and in the top 5 in the world with a bronze medal in the squat, would you believe that? And I would say yes, you know. And that's not me being arrogant or cocky. It's not that at all. I mean, anyone who watches me or follows me would know that I'm the opposite. I play down everything I've ever done, you know. Anything I do, I play down, you know. If anything, I'm extremely harsh on myself. You know, I'm not cocky or arrogant, you know. I don't... Cocky and arrogance comes from insecurity, you know. That's all that cocky and arrogance comes from, you know. But I have a lot of self-belief, and I believe that as long as I'm willing to do what it takes, I can go anywhere, you know. And that, yeah, I would believe that I could totally 120 kilos in 15 months. Of course I could, because if I didn't believe it, it's not going to come true. What you believe, you manifest. And if you don't believe it's going to happen, how is it ever going to happen? You know, only you can do this. Only you can do this. Only you can be the one that squats the weight and benches the weight and deadlifts the weight that is going to add the weight to your total. If you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. But on the flip side, don't be down on yourself for progress. If you add 100 kilos to your total in 15 months, that is amazing. If you add 50 kilos to your total in 15 months, that is amazing. If you add 10 kilos to your total in 15 months, right, it might not be as much as you wanted, right, now, but it is progress. And if you're advanced, that's awesome, you know. But believe that you're able to do anything, and also accept that all progress is really, really, really good progress. Now next, recovery work and sleep. They are such important factors, you know, and I have remained, for the most part, very healthy for the past 15 months physically. Yes, I've had a few wee hamstring problems here and there. Yes, leading up to the Worlds, I had pretty major hip problems, nothing that stopped me from hitting my numbers. You know, nothing I've spoke about before because I didn't want to make excuses, you know. But for the most part, I remain healthy, and the reason for that is I have taken care of myself. I get massages, I go to a physio, I see a chiropractor, I sleep 8 hours a night minimum. If I have a non-training day, the 2.5 to 3 hours that I would be training, I try and get a wee hour nap in there. So I'm sleeping enough, and on top of that, I'm doing my mobility work, and I'm doing my rolling, and I'm doing my recovery work. That is going to A, allow you to recover properly, B, have you feeling better, and C, the mobility work is going to keep you moving properly, right? And also the foam rolling is going to keep your tissues healthy. Now, I don't care who you are, doing mobility, people saying, oh, I bet you 30 years ago, this dude who broke 3 ribs when he was squatting went on to win the World Championship, do you think he was rolling around a foam roller and doing these stretches? It's like, I don't really care, you know. Now, I don't think you should do it before your workout. That's a video for another topic. But if you are training properly and you're doing pretty high volumes, you need to start managing, taking care of your tissues, making sure you're sleeping properly, and doing mobility work to ensure that you're moving properly. You know, simply having healthy hips and healthy shoulders will go such a long way. You know, it will go such a long way, and by allowing you to move properly, your movements are going to be more efficient. Your movements are going to be more efficient, and with your movements being more efficient, your body also won't go through, you know, for example, if you've got ridiculously tight hip flexors, you know, your glutes neurologically start to become a little bit sleepy and things like that, you know. So by making sure you can move properly, you're also making sure that every muscle's firing correctly, and that will also help with some muscles not taking on too much work and then tearing, you know. And lastly, work on improving your technique. You know, technique is everything, but don't get caught up on it. So again, here's two sides to it. Don't get so caught up in technique that you hold yourself back. I'm talking about if your technique is of a good standard already. You know, if your technique is horrible, then yes, we need to take steps back to take steps forwards. But if your technique is 3 white light worthy and is safe, trying to just improve technique cycle to cycle to cycle is going to help you massively. The better your technique is, the more repeatable your practice is, the more weight you're going to be able to add to the bar over time. Safely as well. Efficiently and safely. Efficiently and safely. However, trying to improve it cycle to cycle is going to be a big thing, but don't get so caught up with paralysis by analysis that you hold yourself back because you're constantly analysing so many things. Every single time you squat, you're doing a different setup, a different walkout, a different belt position, a different depth, different knee sleeves, and the list goes on, because by then you're never getting the chance to nail down a movement pattern, nail down repeatable practice, and nail down neural efficiency for one movement. Okay, so there all the tips that I would suggest for if you really want to take things seriously, that will really help improve you moving forwards in your powerlifting career. Now, how much weight you can gain, I cannot predict, you cannot predict, no one can predict. It might be 10 kilos, might be 200 kilos. However, by doing these things, these will give you the best possible chance to add as much weight to the bar as possible in your powerlifting career. So this has been helpful, guys. I'm glad it could help. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll speak to all of you guys next time.